NDP Leader Jagmeet Singh, joined by NDP MP Matthew Green from Hamilton Centre and MPP Monique Taylor from Hamilton Mountain. We will hear a few remarks, and then we will take questions on site, question and a follow-up, and then we will take questions via Zoom. Please use the raise hand function to indicate your intention to ask a question. Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à une conférence de presse avec le chef du nouveau Parti démocratique du Canada, Jagmeet Singh, accompagné du député de Hamilton Mountain, Matthew Green, et la députée de l'Assemblée législative de l'Ontario, Monique Taylor, pour Hamilton Mountain. Nous allons commencer avec quelques remarques. Ensuite, nous allons prendre des questions en personne et nous irons aux questions par Zoom par la suite. Veuillez utiliser la fonction « Lever la main » pour démontrer votre intention de poser une question. Monique, the mic is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Jagmeet Singh and Matthew Green for joining us here today. And a special warm thank you to Barrington Hector, who is the Executive Director here at Neighbor to Neighbor, and his amazing team who have hosted us on a fantastic tour this morning. It's really, truly wonderful to have Jagmeet here with us today in the riding to talk about food insecurity, and particularly a student nutritional food program that he has spearheaded throughout Canada. Right here in our own food bank in Hamilton, we know that we have over 5,000 visits a month, with 40% of those being under the age of 18. So this food program is totally something that is necessary and welcomed, and I'm so grateful to have Jagmeet and the NDP team spearheading these wonderful initiatives right across our country that truly do make a difference in people's lives. So I'd now like to welcome Jagmeet to the podium. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Monique. We're so lucky that Monique is such an incredible advocate here on Hamilton Mountain. So thanks so much, Monique, for the introduction and for talking about the great work that Neighbor to Neighbor does. I also want to acknowledge Matthew Green, of course, the Member of Parliament for Hamilton Centre, and all the great work Matthew does fighting for the people of Hamilton. And we know that things are tough in Hamilton. We're hearing from stories, we heard from the workers here, that the needs are higher than they've ever seen before. More than ever, people are needing to turn to a food bank. And what that exposes is some serious problems. And it's really decisions that were made by previous Liberal and Conservative governments that have got us to this point. We look at how tough it is for people to make ends meet. We know that families are struggling right now to pay the rent, to put food on the table. They're feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling like they're drowning. Their head is barely above water. That is such a pressure that families are feeling right now. There is really at this point feeling like there's no hope. And hearing people, we thought, what can we do to use our power to give people a break? So we fought to push this government to bring in a national food program in schools. That's going to provide relief to kids. That's going to give some breathing room for parents. They don't have to worry about their kids getting a healthy meal at school. It takes one thing off the plate for those parents, and it makes sure those kids can focus on going to school. But when we look at the problem, one of the things that neither Pierre Poilievre or Justin Trudeau will ever say clearly is that the major driver that is forcing people to have to end up using food banks is that food is so expensive. The cost of groceries have gone up. And while people are seeing a record usage of food banks, we also see another record being broken: record profits for corporate grocery stores. There are 3 CEOs that run the majority of grocery stores that you go to, whether it's Loblaws, Sobeys, or Metro. Those 3 CEOs run the majority of grocery stores. And they are posting not good profits, not high profits, they are posting record profits. And it makes you wonder, well, why is no one talking about this? Well, I know why Pierre Poilievre isn't talking about this, because his chief strategist, the campaign director for the Conservative Party of Canada, is a lobbyist for the largest corporate grocery store chain in Canada. So no wonder he's not going to talk about the real reason why your grocery prices are high. And for Justin Trudeau, he's ignored this problem. He's known very clearly that food prices have outpaced general inflation for 2 years. But what has he done about it? It's been very clear that Liberals and Conservatives are more interested in the wealthy elite making corporate deals than families getting affordable meals. We've got to change that. So one of the tools we want to use to take on the root cause of why people can't afford food is to go directly after corporate greed. We're proposing an excess profit tax on those corporate grocery chains. We have actually pushed for and done this with big banks and insurance companies. We want to put in place that same principle, that same mechanism to go after the corporate greed, which is ripping off Canadians. We want to use the revenue from this excess profit tax to go back into the pockets of people by doubling the GST rebate again and increasing that even further, by putting investments into food banks like the one around us to give them the means to be able to ensure that people get the food that they need. We can take on corporate greed, but we're the only party that has the courage to do so. When Pierre Poilievre was in power, let's be clear whose side he's on. When he was in power, he gave massive tax giveaways to large corporations. So much so that those three large corporations, Sobeys, Metro, and Loblaws, because of Pierre Poilievre, were able to get basically a gift of over $2 billion in taxes they didn't have to pay because Pierre Poilievre sided with them. New Democrats are on your side. We want to go after the real reason why your prices are high, the real reason why grocery prices are high, because these large corporate grocers are ripping you off. We want to stop that with an excess profit tax, put money back in your pockets, give you the means to be able to afford the food that you need, and support local initiatives and community groups like Neighbor to Neighbor that are helping out community, helping out people with the access to food. That's our plan. That's whose side we're on. I'll do that again in French, and then I look forward to your questions. C'est clair qu'on est dans une crise d'abordabilité. C'est plus que jamais difficile de rejoindre les deux bouts. Et pour les banques alimentaires, ils ont vu des nombres records de gens qui ont besoin de leurs services. Et ce n'est pas par hasard qu'on se retrouve dans cette situation. C'est grâce aux décisions des libéraux et des conservateurs qui ont ignoré le problème et qui ont favorisé les grandes entreprises d'épicerie. Pour les familles maintenant, c'est tellement difficile de faire l'épicerie. C'est impossible de payer toutes les factures, le loyer, les épiceries. C'est impossible. Et on a vu dans le passé, la priorité du gouvernement conservateur et Pierre Poilievre, c'est de encore favoriser les entreprises, les grandes entreprises. Et ça a fait mal aux gens. Et les libéraux eux-mêmes, ils ont ignoré le problème. On a identifié le vrai problème, c'est le fait que ces grandes entreprises d'épicerie exploitent les gens. Donc, on doit arrêter cette exploitation. Ça, c'est pourquoi on propose de mettre en œuvre une taxe sur les profits excessifs de ces grandes entreprises. Et on peut utiliser ce revenu pour mettre plus d'argent dans les poches des familles et pour investir davantage dans les programmes qui nourrissent les gens, comme les banques alimentaires. On a des solutions. Nous sommes de votre bord. On veut faire face à l'exploitation des grandes entreprises d'épicerie et on veut vous aider. Les libéraux et les conservateurs ne sont pas là pour vous. Nous sommes là pour vous. On se bat pour vous et on va continuer de faire ça. Merci. Thank you. And with that, I'm ready for any questions you might have.
Okay, we're going to start with questions on site. We'll start with CHCH.
Hi, I'm
Yeah.
Taylor, CHCH. I'm just wondering about some of the mechanics of this excess tax. I mean, what profit do we consider excess? How high is that tax rate going to be? Things like that.
Sure. So what we're suggesting is there's a mechanism that exists already. We went after the big banks and insurance companies. We put in place an excess profit tax here in Canada. And we want to use a similar mechanism to go after not just actually corporate grocery stores, but also oil and gas companies, which are also posting record profits. So the mechanism that was put in place was, let's look at what profits companies make in the past years, look at that as an average. And then in the case of banks, they set a threshold for growth and for normal increases, and then looked at what was beyond that, was well above that. So putting in place that same metric or that same mechanism that we already use on big banks and big insurance companies, let's go after the greed, the corporate greed of these large corporate grocery stores and oil and gas companies to really put money back into the pockets of people to take on these folks that are not just making good profits or high profits, they're making record profits while you are struggling. That is wrong. That is a problem. They should be paying their fair share. We've got a plan to do that.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's a specific number. Sorry, so that's my understanding of that is that it's based on the average of profits that we see now, and then if they exceed that in the future, that's where the tax comes in?
Yeah, so to break it down on the banks, what they had established was they looked at the profits 2 years before we put in place this new measure to go after their excess profits. So 2 years earlier, looked at their average amount of profit, and then set a threshold. In the case of banks, it was $1 billion, and then any amount above that was subject to an additional tax and excess tax. So that same model could be applied to corporate grocery stores. What the threshold would be based on what makes sense for those companies. But we're talking about a practical, reasonable wealth tax. We've seen other countries do so. The United Kingdom has put in place a excess profit tax on big oil and gas companies. Mind you, that was a conservative government that did that. We can do it here in Canada. It works. Other European countries have done so. Germany has done so as well. We can put this in place, and this is about whose side we're on. The Liberals and Conservatives have made it very clear whose side they're on. Pierre Poilievre has constantly chosen the side of rich corporations, of big CEOs. That's who he is sided with. The same with the Liberals. We're on your side. We want to go after them, the people that are ripping you off, and we're the only ones with the courage to do so, and we've got a plan that it will actually take them on and put more money back in your pockets. Thanks so much.
We're going to go to Zoom for more questions.
Yeah.
Je m'appelle d'utiliser la fonction lever la main si vous aimeriez poser une question. Reminder to use the raise hand function to ask a question. We're going to go to Olivier Ferron-Boissé avec TVA Nouvelles. C'est à vous.
Un, deux, check. Est-ce que vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Génial. Bonjour, M. Singh. Merci de prendre nos questions. Je voulais vous questionner sur les annonces prébudgétaires que M. Trudeau fait depuis la semaine dernière. Vous pensez quoi de cette façon de faire-là, d'y aller d'une annonce pratiquement tous les jours pour un budget qui sera connu seulement le 16 avril?
C'est la décision du gouvernement de gérer ces dossiers comme ils veulent. Notre priorité, ce qu'on veut faire, on veut forcer ce gouvernement de livrer l'aide aux gens. Parce que depuis des années, sans avoir la pression des néo-démocrates, on sait que le gouvernement n'aurait jamais mettre en œuvre des solutions, n'aurait jamais répondre aux besoins des gens. Donc, c'est vraiment grâce à nos efforts qu'on force le gouvernement de mettre en œuvre des programmes qui vont aider les gens. C'est ce qu'on a fait avec l'assurance médicaments universelle pour les médicaments diabétiques et les contraceptifs. On a forcé le gouvernement de faire ça avec les soins dentaires. Encore, on a forcé le gouvernement libéral de mettre en œuvre ce programme. Donc ça, c'est notre priorité dans ce budget. On veut voir des actions pour réduire les coûts de la vie, pour investir davantage, pour créer du logement abordable. On veut voir des actions pour aider les gens qui disent que c'est impossible de faire l'épicerie. Donc ça, c'est notre but. On va continuer de mettre la pression sur les libéraux.
Et quelles sont vos craintes par rapport au déficit qui sera annoncé? Est-ce que les Canadiens en auront pour leur argent? Puis est-ce qu'il n'y a pas un risque que les Canadiens se retrouvent à payer beaucoup trop d'intérêts, par exemple, sur la dette avec le déficit qu'on risque d'avoir? C'est quoi vos craintes par rapport à ça?
Mon crainte, c'est ce qui est clair, c'est les libéraux ne gèrent pas l'argent dans une manière prudente et responsable. Ils ont gaspillé l'argent quand on parle de l'utilisation des contrats privés au lieu d'utiliser notre service public. Ils continuent de gaspiller l'argent avec les subventions pétrolières pour les entreprises pétrolières qui font des profits encore records. Donc, ça n'a aucun sens de continuer de subventionner ces entreprises avec des milliards de dollars publics. Donc, dans mon avis, on a les moyens d'investir pour nourrir les enfants, pour soigner les dents, pour aider nos aînés. On peut faire tout ça, mais on doit avoir des bonnes priorités. Et pour les néo-démocrates, ça c'est arrêter le gaspillage d'argent pour les entreprises qui font des profits records, utiliser l'argent public pour investir, pour aider les gens, monsieur, madame, tout le monde. Et on peut faire ça.
Merci.
Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Je ne vois plus de questions. There are no more questions. So this concludes our press conference. Ceci conclut notre conférence de presse. Merci.
Thanks again. Big shout out to Neighbor. Thanks for everyone that attended the press conference, and a big thank to Monique Taylor and to Matthew Green. Appreciate you all. Thanks.
Thank you.
Merci. All right.